I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee, typical blue-collar neighborhood. All our fathers and uncles were World War II veterans, and that was the era we grew up in. Although we thought we were pretty savvy kids, in our own neighborhood we were, but we weren't very worldly. But we did start paying attention to Vietnam. There was a draft, and we all knew it, and the kids in my neighborhood, we didn't go to college. When our time came, we went in the military. And in my case, I joined the Marine Corps. And that would have been the very beginning of 1968. In the Marine Corps, we were all going to Vietnam. You couldn't imagine what it was you were going to. We were all young, tough guys, and that whole platoon did go to Vietnam. Most were infantry. I was trained as a radio operator in an infantry company. We landed in Da Nang, which was a large air base, and then from there we took another flight north to where our company was headquartered out of. That was a city called Dong Ha. They kept us there for about 5 days just to get acclimated to the heat. Then in a few days, we helicoptered out to where our company was. It was an infantry company, and we were out in the bush, as we called it. Well, our first job was behind it was a medical unit, almost like MASH would be on TV. And behind there was a pile of clothing about the size of a small car, and our job was to go through the clothes. These were all wounded and killed in action. Well, that was a real eye-opener for us because some of the trousers would have legs missing and a gaping hole in the back of a shirt. And I remember the guy that I was with, he said, God, he said, I hope we're not going where these guys came from. Well, the guy that was heading up this working party, he said, that's exactly where you're going. You're their replacements. We got into something that you can't even imagine. There's no way to even articulate what it was. And although, looking backwards, the Marine Corps tried to prepare you for it, and they did the best they could, but there is no preparation for that. As a radio operator, I was the communications between what we were doing and back at headquarters. That was our link. That was our communications. You know, we did what the Marines did over there. We went out on daytime patrols, nighttime patrols, night ambushes, listening posts. The DMZ was the demilitarized zone which separated North Vietnam from South Vietnam. The entire 3rd Marine Division was in that area, and they were all mobile infantry companies, so we were on the move a lot. It was an area that was thick with North Vietnamese soldiers. A lot of battles went on up there. Khe Sanh was a famous battle that lasted 77 days. I wasn't involved in Khe Sanh, but a lot of those hills had been fought for many times and then abandoned. They'd be taken, abandoned. Months later, you might be fighting for the same hill. At the time, we weren't aware of all the politics that were going into this. We were fighting for survival. Well, the Marine Corps motto is Semper Fidelis. The translation is simply always faithful. You're faithful to your country, your Marine Corps, but more importantly, the Marine to your left and right. You're fighting for each other. You're 19 and fighting like hell to make it 20. As Marines, you go where the Marine Corps tells you to go and you do what you have to do, without question. That may sound foolish to a lot of people, but that's what the Marine Corps was all about. A lot of veterans came home with deep feelings of guilt. And most of it is survivor guilt. How did I come home and these guys didn't? Well, there's no way to know that. It's not because the survivors fought harder or were smarter. It wasn't anything like that. It's the way of war. Some make it, some don't. But as a survivor, it's our duty now to tell the story of these guys. You can't forget all these men. And their story, I think, simply was they were average young men who, when their country called, they went. And they fought as valiantly as any warrior in history.